fear through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Always Next Year podcast network. And we are recording the People's Take today, the WWE arm of our Always Next Year podcast family, which continues to grow with more shows. I am your host, Connor Donald, and with me today is my co-host, LJ Harrell. LJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, my friend. Finally, we get to talk some wrestling. Obviously, we never get mad about talking Eagles football. That's a given in our lives, pretty much, is Eagles football. But it's always good to branch out and talk something new.
Absolutely. All I've been doing is talking Eagles football and fantasy football for like 4 weeks now since we did our SummerSlam predictions. So it's nice to talk something a little bit different. So speaking of SummerSlam, we did our predictions online. Unfortunately, vacations and time away and a busy summer life kept us from being able to record a show, but we still got our predictions up. But let's talk SummerSlam and your thoughts about SummerSlam. What were some things that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, it was so long ago, I feel like. Just thinking back, I kind of expected what expected. My thing was I expected a return, and the big return didn't happen until the night after on Monday Night Raw when Sasha Banks returned to set up the feud with Becky Lynch. I was expecting either Sasha to come back or even Ronda Rousey. I don't know if Rousey's going to come back to the WWE, but if she does, that could be happening within the next month with SmackDown going to Fox, because I expect her and I expect a bunch of other people, which we're going to talk about on the next show, in a month before Hell in a Cell, with the draft coming up. But, it was, I mean, looking at the card, I think the best match of the night, AJ Styles and Ricochet. I like Ricochet a lot. And I know we're going to talk about the King of the Ring tournament a little bit later, but, I thought he should have won should be at least in the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, because he is really good at what he does. He's really super athletic. It makes me disappointed that I didn't watch more of NXT because I finally watched an NXT show, and it was NXT TakeOver right before SummerSlam, and that show was off the hook. Like, it was really good. So I'm disappointed in myself for missing out on that. But Ricochet really has a lot of talent and really is somebody that I think Paul Heyman is going to try to build. Now, it might not be a quick build. It may be a build, he's going to get some of the intermediate titles, whether it's U.S. Championship. He was going after the tag belts with Aleister Black when they first came up. But I just think that if he's given the opportunity to go after the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, I think he can make it a successful belt, because I think he is really super talented. And I thought the match between him and AJ was really good. Obviously, AJ being with the club, it bothers me just because they always interfere. I just think AJ is, when he is in a one-on-one situation with no outside interference, he puts on really great matches, and it doesn't matter who he's with.
Yeah, I agree, especially on the AJ Styles point, because I mean, we know what he is as a singles competitor, and we know what he can do by himself. And I mean, the only thing that the club is doing is just making him a really hated wrestler with a strong heel presence, because I've kind of noticed the WWE and their heels, there's no like true heels who are really driving home the boos beyond Baron Corbin, who I know you hate, but
I hate him.
he gets the boos. He's your run-of-the-mill heel that everybody hates and no one likes. So I think the WWE's attempt to make Styles really hate it.
And that used to be, the big heel used to be like The Miz or even Kevin Owens. They used to be able to get heat. Now that's turning into Sasha Banks. Even my favorite, Alexa Bliss used to be really good when she was a heel, but now she's a face. Like, it is tough though, because a lot of like Randy Orton he's a phenomenal heel, but now he's kind of have that a little program going where he has the Revival with him. Like, you don't ever see that single heel to where they don't need outside interference to get the heat from the crowd. And that's what I think WWE is going to need. And I think with Heyman running Raw, he'll be able to build that up. Like, Brock Lesnar is that heel, but Brock Lesnar is going to go over to SmackDown. It's going to happen. I don't know when, probably in a month it's going to happen, but they need to find a way to build up the heels because there are plenty of faces on both shows.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Randy Orton more is like that tweener. He's kind of stuck in the middle because there's a lot of people who've been with him forever and love him, and then there's all the fans who hate him because he's going after Kofi Kingston right now. So, I mean, he's kind of stuck in that middle ground. But I definitely agree they got to get some more true heels, some heels where there is no some boo, some cheer. You got to get that perfect heel. And that's why, sadly, Baron Corbin presently is that perfect heel, but we don't want to see him get any more.
Well, actually, I think the most perfect heel, which is another person we don't want to see, is Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon.
Absolutely. Him as well. Like that as soon as I was kind of hoping that, because I think you would have got a way better reaction this past week on SmackDown if his music just hit after Gable came out, and then his music hit, and he would have got the most massive reaction of boos if he had to come out like that instead of announcing it mid-show. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been like the perfect heel opportunity, but he did kind of build it up with the whole situation with Kevin Owens and stuff. But Shane McMahon is another heel that is so good, but you hate Corbin, I despise Shane McMahon. So I think we're on different ends here.
We are, but they're both in prominent like storylines on each show. You have the King of the Ring tournament, which for some god reason, you know, they feel Vince McMahon feels like pushing Baron Corbin to the top of that. If he wins it on Sunday, I'm going to be pissed. I really am. I think Gable's going to win. I hope I mean, at this rate, I hope he wins. My pick again was Ricochet, but you know, if Corbin wins, so WWE tweeted out something about King Corbin, and I responded to it. I was like, stop pushing him. He is boring. He's just awful. I don't like him. I don't like his character. I don't even think he's that good of a wrestler. It's just so frustrating that they keep pushing him. And apparently I was reading a story that like other officials are trying to tell Vince not to push him. Don't push Baron. No, he gets a boo reaction, but like even when his entrance and he comes out, like it's kind of a flat reaction. Nobody really cares. He only gets the reaction after he wins a match that everybody knows he shouldn't win, and he gets put in a spot that everybody knows he shouldn't be put in, like when he was in the Universal Championship picture. Why? It just makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate Baron Corbin, and I mean, but the thing for King of the Ring, I think you got to put over someone who needs it, and Baron Corbin doesn't need it because Vince McMahon loves him. So he's always going to be put over because Vince McMahon's going to, when it comes time to pick who's the next number one contender, you know that his name is going to be thrown out there for, well, why don't we put Corbin back in the picture? You know that's what he's saying behind the scenes. So, like, I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't need the help of King of the Ring. He doesn't need the help of the Royal Rumble because somehow he always finds his way back into the title picture.
Yeah, because you mentioned it should be somebody that needs it. You know, Cedric Alexander would have been perfect. I know you don't want to have a face versus a face or even a heel versus a heel. I don't even know what Chad Gable is. I'm guessing he's
definitely
face.
A face, but people just don't know enough about him at this point. He just suddenly, bam, back in the picture in King of the Ring because like the WWE did, they forced some guys in who we've barely seen much of. Buddy Murphy, Cedric Alexander, and the likes of them. We didn't know much about him. And Chad Gable, I honestly thought he was dead because he was basically gone off the face of the earth until they announced King of the Ring and bam, he was there. And I was like, I don't think he's going to get it because it's Chad Gable. We haven't seen him in forever. What are you going to do with him? But he definitely needs some character work if he becomes King Gable or whatever they decide to call him. He definitely needs some character work and to get that push and to make that push from King of the Ring into a title picture.
I agree with you, and like I'm only bad thing about the pay-per-view being this Sunday night is that the Eagles also play Sunday night. So like I'm gonna have to either watch on the WWE Network on my phone because I'm gonna have the Eagles on the TV, obviously, or watch it the next day before Raw. Like it's such a catch-22 here because I want to pay attention to both, and I hate getting all the updates and not seeing what happens. But obviously, you know, in my life and probably your life too, Eagles take precedence. But you know, during that match, I'm going to be going hard for Gable. Like, I hope Shane McMahon doesn't interfere because he lost the match. I thought that they were going to let Shane win, you know, and do the whole he's the best in the world and the king of the ring, because that would have really been mad. But for somebody that's supposed to be getting off TV, somebody that they're supposed to be writing off TV, he still appears, and it's so frustrating.
Oh, I completely agree. It's really frustrating. You can tell the fans are getting frustrated, but I think this is all going to come to a head and change when the draft comes, because you can tell they've kind of given up on the whole wildcard rule, and it's just two rosters intersecting. There is no Raw, there is no SmackDown. It's basically Raw and SmackDown, and the rosters just intermingle and intersect. And I think they're just trying to get to the draft on what they have, seeing who Fox wants, who they can move to Raw, what they're going to do with NXT and all that stuff. So that'll be definitely a fun topic to talk about in 3 weeks' time before Hell in a Cell and before the draft.
And with that move, the move to I know we're going to bring it up, but you have the NXT going live, and they're going to be competing against AEW. So it wouldn't shock me if we see some main roster stars going to NXT. Maybe Kevin Owens goes to NXT. You know, you put some big names up there that are going to compete against AEW. My only thing when it comes to NXT, Vince needs to stay far away from it. Triple H is running that show to perfection. Let him handle everything. Vince, you stay away from NXT.
Yeah, and the rumor is that he's going to try and get his hands in on it a little bit. So hopefully a little bit is a little bit, but we know Vince McMahon, he is a very controlling person of his product. So he's going to want his hand in all of WWE Raw, SmackDown, and NXT when all these changes happen. When NXT goes to live TV and when SmackDown goes to Fox, he's going to want his hand in everything because he wants to see it succeed. Little does he know he's the reason he's holding some people back.
100% true. I definitely agree with you on that notion.
I'll just throw my SummerSlam thoughts. I thought the length was perfect. They didn't waste time with any fillers. They actually ended like half an hour early. I thought that was super different for the WWE, but it was nice. We didn't see any fillers. We didn't see any bullshit with the 24/7 title or any of that stuff. A bunch of low-card guys chasing each other around for half an hour just to fill some time. So that was nice. They got to the point. They did the matches and they ended half an hour early. So
which recently the pay-per-views have been ending half an hour early. Like, they haven't been drawing it out. They haven't been, like you said, filling it with dumb things, whether it's a promo segment or whether it is that 20. As much as we love R-Truth in that 24/7 championship, they haven't been filling air with it, with the needless running around, chasing them for 10 minutes, you know, having all these roll-up pins that don't work. But you're right. They just let the show flow, and it ends when it ends, and they don't try to hit 11 o'clock and make it a 4-hour show.
Exactly. I mean, I love the 24/7 title. I think it's great. It's very amusing what they did on with the Fox Sports. I think it was on Fox, and with Enos Cantor on Monday Night Raw. It's amusing, but it is not a pay-per-view title. It should not have its hands anywhere near any pay-per-view, and that's my belief. The pay-per-view is where the big titles are on the line, the IC title, US title, Universal. That's where those take front center stage, not 20 minutes, half an hour of chasing and roll-ups and just the 24/7 title. I mean, I know it's 24/7, so you got to try and get it involved at a pay-per-view, but I think 1 out of the 7 days a week you can keep it away, and that's once a month that you have to keep it away. And I personally think it just has no place in pay-per-views. I also thought the Rollins retain over Lesnar, that was probably the best match I saw between the two of them.
I did not expect that to happen.
No, there was lots of back and forth action. My disappointment was kind of with the fact, I'll go to the Kingston and Orton match. I loved the match. It was getting really good. They ended it in a double countout, and I found that extremely disappointing, especially the way the Rollins match was handled outside the ring. Him and Lesnar were fighting outside the ring and ended up going through an announce table, and that was well over 10 seconds outside the ring. And Kingston and Orton, it felt like they got about 5 seconds outside the ring. He was staring at his son, and then the bell rings and it's over. So I was a little disappointed with the Kingston and Orton match because I actually find it one of the more enticing storylines happening right now. How they've been able to bring something that happened 10 years ago back and make it so relevant is just only something the WWE could do. So, I mean, I was disappointed with the way those two matches were handled outside of the ring and how quick one ended and how lenient they were on the other one. And then the other thing was the Fiend's debut. Cannot not talk about this. I thought it was everything I expected. The entrance was amazing. The entrance is what blew me away.
His lantern was awesome.
That.
I won't lie about that.
Yeah, but I guess, and this is what they wanted to do, was make the Fiend this extremely freaky character, scare the shit out of you character, and I guess they're not using the lantern, or there's suspicions they won't be using the lantern anymore because there was a lot of complaints that it scared the children watching. But
well, they are going away from PG 13, whatever, to PG, and
PG,
they're going up.
It's just PG. Yeah, now
they're going up
to
to PG 14. But whatever. I like it was his face. Like, that lantern was actually cool. I'm not like, look, Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt. Like, I'm not the biggest Bray Wyatt fan, but that entrance was cool, and I like what they're doing with the Fiend. I like that they have him. They don't have him on every show, but they have him. You know, when an old superstar comes out there, or a Hall of Famer comes out there, he appears, he attacks them, and then he disappears. Like, that's actually cool for him. Now, but with the talk, it's going to be interesting to see what they do come Hell in a Cell, since he's going to be the new number one contender for the title. And
I'm kind of frustrated by that because I think it's too soon. The build-up that they've done, the build-up they did with the Firefly Funhouse, then the build-up that they've been doing with him attacking all these Hall of Famers and all these people, I think that you're just forcing it, and I don't think that you need to force it. I think you can take your time with the Fiend, and there's a reason that everyone is so enthralled with the Fiend right now, is because there's so much interest in him. The Firefly Funhouse, him, when's he going to show up? What's he going to do? And I think that shoving him in the title picture after Vince McMahon said he wants him to have a nice long winning streak and look unbeatable and all this, and then you're going to throw him in the title picture where someone's got to lose. So you're going to have Seth Rollins, or my thoughts is probably Kofi Kingston. You're going to have one of them lose the title. We all know that they're WWE super high on Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins loves to whine and cry when he doesn't get what he wants. And so if you put one of the big title belts on the Fiend, you know that it's going to be a long reign. So I kind of think it's being rushed.
Well, it is being rushed, but he is going to go up against whoever wins the Universal title match this weekend. But I also think that it's probably not going to be a finish. It's going to be a DQ somehow. Like, something could happen in the Rollins and Braun Strowman match this Sunday that whoever – I'm going to assume Rollins is going to win. Like that, I'm not giving away let's say Rollins wins on Sunday, and then he defends it against the Fiend at Hell in a Cell. Maybe Braun Strowman interferes. He gets it if it is inside Hell in a Cell. If there's anybody that can break inside Hell in a Cell, it would be Braun Strowman. So he would interfere, and then there just wouldn't be a finish to the match. And Rollins can still hold on to the belt. The Fiend doesn't get it just yet, but he can also continue to go after, torment the roster on both shows, or all three shows, before he gets another title match.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, they have to handle it delicately. They can't just give him the belt right away, or give him the belt and then take it away from him, because that's something that frustrated me about the Ricochet thing. He won the U.S. title. He looked like he was on his ascension up the roster, and then they gave it to AJ Styles. So that was kind of frustrating. So I don't want to see something like that happening with the Fiend, which I think they're more wiser and smarter with the Fiend, because they know that they have an amazing product in the Fiend. I mean, he's like the number one selling merch product by double on second place now. So, I mean, they know what they have. They have a moneymaker in the Fiend. So don't fuck it up, Vince McMahon, please. But I think that's pretty much a good coverage of SummerSlam. We both seem to think the same way. It seemed to be a really good pay-per-view event, decent build-up, your typical run-of-the-mill SummerSlam, some good matches, and a nice debut for The Fiend, among other things.
It was also before it was nice seeing
Yep.
it was nice seeing Trish Stratus. I wish she would have won. Obviously, I think she is one of the greatest of all times, and it would have been nice to see her win in her final match, especially at home. But you knew they weren't going to let Charlotte lose that match. But it was nice. That was a pretty good match.
That's what I was predicting, was like they're just going to keep putting Charlotte over, but she doesn't even need to be put over. We know what you think. We know what the WWE thinks of Charlotte, and we know that Charlotte is the face of the women's division, basically, because every time she's around, she's going after a title. I don't remember the last time she wasn't involved in the title picture at this point. And that's why if you want to continue to push Charlotte and put her over, just put the belt around her waist and let her beat people up instead of her constantly being the number one contender. That's the way I feel about Charlotte, but I mean, everybody has their own opinion. Eventually, Charlotte it seems like she has to exit the picture at some point, and that Trish Stratus storyline was a nice exit for a little while.
Yeah, and they're going to try to have her win as many titles as Ric Flair won. Like, Ric Flair is a 16-time champ. She's going for her 10th title already, her 10th women's title, which is ridiculous. But you know that that's what they want to end up doing.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So moving on, we'll talk. Let's talk the state of Raw and SmackDown. What are your thoughts on the shows since SummerSlam? Because I believe this is the longest time they've actually had to build a pay-per-view since the Super Showdown. Most of those pay-per-views and big shows are separated by about 3 weeks. I believe it's been about 5 weeks since SummerSlam. So they've had quite the time to build up and to do some things on Raw and SmackDown, as we've seen. What have you liked? What have you hated? What storylines do you like? And what storylines have you hated? We'll leave King of the Ring out of it because that's going to be our next topic. So, but beyond King of the Ring, what are your thoughts on Raw and SmackDown?
I think this is the best stretch that each show has had, especially Raw, because I see SmackDown as being the superior show. And I'm pretty sure that they want to, with SmackDown going to Fox, they want to turn SmackDown into the A show. And that's what Fox wants because they want the ratings, obviously. Even though it's going to be, which before I continue, it's going to be hard on a Friday night from 8 to 10 to get ratings. I have no idea what Fox is thinking. There is the wrestling community is diehard, but a Friday night, it's going to be interesting to see what the ratings look like the first month of the shows. But beyond that, I think that the shows have been really good. I still Raw has been better than it has been in previous months, because Raw always seemed to be the slower show, but you can see Paul Heyman's fingerprint on the show. You haven't
Definitely.
seen, and we don't, most of the time they open up a show with a wrestling match, and you get a bunch of action to start, and that's what you like to see. My favorite storyline from Raw, I like the Sasha Banks coming back, turning heel, and in response to that, Bayley turning heel. That was unexpected because everybody always talked about Bayley turning heel, and it happened because she's the hugger and all this stuff. But I like when Sasha was going after Becky with the chair, and when why's her name slipping my mind now?
Natalia.
No, not
Becky.
Natalia. Not Becky. Bayley. My God, I'm sorry.
Bayley. I thought we were talking somebody else.
I don't know what's going on here. It's been a long day already. When Bayley came into the ring and took the chair, and she went after Becky, you heard the crowd. Now the initial reaction from the crowd was excitement. They were happy, and then apparently after the show went off the air, there was tapes of the crowd booing because they realized, oh wait, she went after Becky. But yeah, I'm actually really intrigued by that. I hope that they don't do away with them two being heels, or at least Bayley being a heel, make it just a quick thing, and then after this pay-per-view, she goes back to being a face. Let her be a heel. Let's see what her heel run is like. On SmackDown, the Kevin Owens thing is interesting to me. I'm mad that it's still with.
Definitely.
I'm mad that it's still with Shane McMahon, but the whole like $100,000 fine, and then this past week on SmackDown, him getting fired. Like, what are they going to do with it? This is an intriguing. They have a great chance to make something big of this, and I hope they don't screw it up like they screwed up the Roman Reigns thing. Rowan, they really made it Rowan. It could have been anybody else, but they made it Rowan. Like, they could have made that The Fiend, or they could have made that Rusev. It could have been anybody, but it's Rowan. And that doesn't really excite me. Like, we know who's going to win the match this Sunday. It's going to be another squash match. We know it's going to happen when it's Rowan against Roman Reigns. But, like, of all the people that it could have been that was, quote-unquote, attacking Roman Reigns, why did it have to be Rowan? It could have even been Samoa Joe. Like, Samoa Joe could have been playing ploy when he was going out and he was feeling concerned for Roman Reigns. But in the end, he was the one setting everything up. I would have been more intrigued by that storyline. But no, it was Rowan. Why? That makes no sense.
I agree. I mean, I kind of agree. I'm excited for the match. I don't think it'll actually be a squash match, but I think it's pretty obvious and clear that it's not going to be Rowan coming out the winner. They set it up basically for Roman Reigns to win and to continue to push Roman Reigns, although it has been a nice breath of fresh air to not see Roman Reigns in the title picture. I'll admit that, because it would be nice if Seth Rollins would back out of the title picture for a little while, but we know that that's not going to happen. He's got 2 belts around his waist because, I don't know if you read about it, but he was upset that Becky 2 belts was born.
Really?
And happened. Yeah, so
I did not know that.
To my knowledge, he was upset that Becky got 2 belts, but he's never been able to have 2 belts. So, so we obviously know Seth Rollins will not be exiting that title picture. It would be nice to see him exit the Universal title picture and be focusing in on the tag title picture, because I think they have a little something going on there with Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins. I'm not going to say I'm intrigued by them defending their tag titles and then facing each other later that night. I think there was a better way to do it. I think it's really funny the way Strowman is when he's in the presence of the Universal title. I just don't like that it's all happening on the same night. As far as another SmackDown storyline, I like the Sami Zayn situation. He was the perfect guy to come out and confront The Undertaker and have The Undertaker do his usual choke slam and everything, his once every 6 months appearance where he choke slams somebody. They're really getting Sami Zayn over as that heel. He gets booed all the time. The way he comes out, you're not cheering, you're not like happy to hear his music, and he does his sarcastic dance. What he's doing with Shinsuke Nakamura, I love it. When he was when Shinsuke was on commentary on SmackDown and he refused to speak English, and Corey Graves was feeding off of that, which, if it's true, Corey Graves is retiring. That is super sad.
Well, that's actually false, by the way.
Oh, thank God.
He's not going to be on both. He's not going to be on both shows. They're actually moving Michael Cole and him over to SmackDown.
Which I am perfectly fine with, because I love Corey Graves on the announce team, and I like what he does and what he brings to a heel. He really makes you want to hate a heel even more because he's like in love with that heel. So I guess that storyline's really intriguing as well. When we look over at Raw, the whole Sasha Banks, Natalya, Becky Lynch, and Bayley situation is really intriguing. I'm still torn on, because I can't take a heel seriously when her video on the Videotron says I'm a hugger and she's coming out with the arm flailing tube men and stuff. Something's got to change there if you want to make the full true heel turn. It's not like Sami Zayn where she can come out all sarcastically with the arm flailing tube men, whereas Sami can come out and do the same music and give you a really sarcastic dance and all that. I don't know, but something's got to change with that Bayley situation. But I agree, the state of Raw and SmackDown, I think they're in really good spots right now, but SmackDown still has some work to do to step up to that next level, because they're going over to Fox, and Fox wants 3 million viewers a week in that 8 to 10 time slot. And like you said, that ain't an easy time slot to get ratings in or viewers in.
Definitely not, especially on a Friday night. It's going to be, I'll be watching unless I have a life, and go out, which doesn't happen too often. But yeah, you're right. It's the state of each show. They're in good hands right now. And obviously it's going to be interesting come October when you have the Monday Night Raw, Wednesday night NXT and AEW. They're going to go to war. and then Friday Night SmackDown. It's going to be a lot of wrestling with the pay-per-views once a month and some of the NXT takeovers on the weekend. So it's a lot of wrestling to watch for the wrestling community.
Oh, absolutely. So I guess let's move into King of the Ring. So I just wanted to do a quick few minutes talking about King of the Ring. We kind of touched on it earlier. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Who needed it? And feelings on how it's gone so far. I know that we're both mixed on Shane McMahon stepping in for Elias and stuff, but what are your thoughts on it as far as who needed it the most and your sentiments?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's the King of the Ring. Like, I kind of think they kind of just thrust it upon us. I'm glad that they didn't put like the stars. They didn't put a Roman Reigns in it. They didn't put a Braun Strowman. They didn't put a Seth. Like, they didn't put the top guys in it. So I'm glad at that. And again, I hate that Baron Corbin's in the finals. He's just I just don't like him.
He didn't need it. But I mean, on the surface, I did see Drew McIntyre was supposed to win it, who was my pick to win it, and he ended up getting injured. So the guy who needed it the most, I personally believe, was Drew McIntyre, because he always seems to get caught up in a storyline that doesn't involve him going for a championship. So this would be a good way. King McIntyre rolling off the English heritage that he comes from as a king, and leading into the championship, one of the big championships as they move to Friday nights, or if he goes on Monday Night Raw. I mean,
I was
just of the belief that McIntyre needed it the most, because he was just stuck in the shadow of Shane McMahon right up until the point where King of the Ring came around and he got hurt.
I'm not a big fan of McIntyre. I wanted to see Ricochet against Buddy Murphy in the finals. I thought that would have been an excellent final pairing. That Ali Buddy Murphy match was actually really good. The ending of that, I think that was the ending of that match, was just what Ali did. I think it was Ali. He did some type of like tornado DDT through the ring. I don't remember exactly, but the ending of that match was really cool. But yeah, like I said, I wanted to see. It would have been a lot better seeing a couple of quote unquote young guys, like a Ricochet versus a Buddy Murphy would have been an outstanding final match at Clash of Champions. Obviously WWE went in a different direction, and we'll see what type of payoff it's going to have. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how whoever wins it, whether it is Gable, whether it is Baron Corbin, how this affects their career going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ali seems like someone who's stuck to. I mean, Buddy Murphy didn't necessarily need it, because he just finally started making an appearance, and he had back-to-back huge weeks against Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, where the fans fell in love with, well, they hate him, but they fell in love with the skill that he brings to the ring. So, I mean, I don't think Murphy necessarily needed it now, because he was just starting to get his face back out there. But a guy like Ali, who's been trying, and they wanted Ali at I think it was Money in the Bank. They were going to give him Money in the Bank. Then they turned it to Lesnar and went along with the Lesnar storyline there. So it would have been nice to see him kind of get something here. But I mean, something that I like about what happened with King of the Ring, all these guys are now more involved. Ricochet was always involved, but now Cedric Alexander is getting a United States Championship shot. The Miz getting an IC title shot, which is not surprising. Samoa Joe, who's always prominent in storylines. There's like these Murphy's getting more FaceTime on TV. We're seeing it. He got more matches out of it. Ali getting more time. Like, I like that it's kind of, you're seeing more than just a generic like 15, 20 wrestlers. They've expanded what the people see on a weekly basis. And I kind of like what that King of the Ring, a lot of them needed it. And now suddenly a lot of them don't need it as much, because they're getting the face time that they've been deserving of, and that people have been crying for the WWE to give for so long now.
Yeah, when you have tournaments like that, it helps out. Just like, you know, when you have when you had the tag team gauntlet match to figure out the number one contenders for the
tag team turmoil.
Turmoil. My only problem with that, and I don't mean to stray away from the King of the Ring, is you threw two single competitors together to win that. Like, you had Heavy Machinery, you had legit tag teams together. The the OC, the Viking War. Like, you had legitimate tag teams together, and the winners of that tag team turmoil were two single wrestlers.
Agreed.
That's what I don't get. Yeah, and I know the tag team champions are two, single wrestlers. So, like, I'm complaining about that, but it's just I don't get. It feels like the WWE, when it comes to the tag team division, they don't care. They only care when it makes sense, or when they need a filler, or when they just need to put something out into the ring. It's like, all right, let's throw some tag teams out there before we go to the next the next segment. Like, that's what it feels like, and they have to find a way to fix that.
I agree. I mean, I actually really enjoy the team of Ziggler and Rude, and I think they could make really a good championship team, but they got to stop doing that with the tag team division, because it just shows that they don't care about the tag team division or the people involved in it. Because Heavy Machinery, like you said, would be awesome to see. They've been continuing to get a push and a push and a push, and they go out there every SmackDown and they perform. Viking Raiders, they're finally done squashing people week in and week out, and they're actually getting some matches against actual tag teams, and their involvement with the OC and stuff this past Monday night. And I really like them, and I think they could be worth a push, but it just seems like the WWE's just trying to get to that Fox SmackDown over to Fox thing, and when they get a true split of the rosters, and then they're actually going to take this stuff more seriously. I don't know, maybe that's what it is, but I agree. Like, I've been waiting on Heavy Machinery to get that push for so long. Same with the Viking Raiders. Same with Aleister Black. These people that just continuously enter into squash matches week in and week out, when they could easily be flung into one of these storylines, or a picture like Aleister Black not being in the King of the Ring tournament really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just kind of think the WWE is just trying to get to that draft, get a clear line in the sand for who's here, who's there, and then they'll start rolling with some new storylines from there. But for the time being, it's really hurting the people involved right now, like the Viking Raiders, like Aleister Black, and like Heavy Machinery, who I love. I thought it was hilarious what they did on SmackDown, blending up this thing and then just yelling like, "Ooh, yeah," and drinking it. Like, I think they're hilarious. I think they're an awesome team, and they definitely are deserving of a push, but they're just not getting it. They're not getting the respect from the WWE. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, especially in that way. But they did do King of the Ring right in that way, that they didn't put any of the big guys in it. They put a bunch of guys who actually genuinely needed an opportunity. Now, one other question, because I saw it on Twitter. We'll take a minute to address it. Would you be okay with King of the Ring returning as a pay-per-view again?
No, there's too many pay-per-views as there is. Like, they have one pay-per-view a month, which I think, I get it. They want to try to strike off of the revenue off of these shows, but I don't think they really need to. Like, the way they did it, if they're gonna have the King of the Ring tournament, you get more matches on Raw and SmackDown, and then you can have it build up to a King of the Ring final at a pay-per-view. It doesn't have to be the King of the Ring pay-per-view. So I like the way that they did it this time around. I'm not necessarily saying they need to do King of the Ring every year, but the way that they did, I don't think there needs to be a King of the Ring pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I kind of like that you bring it around every couple years. You make it a little tournament when you have the time, 4 or 5 weeks between a pay-per-view, to build it all up, and then you have an actual King of the Ring, which will be crowned this Monday night on Raw.
I thought it was I thought it was on Sunday at Clash of Champions.
No, they moved it. It's on Monday Night Raw that they're going to declare now, because
that doesn't make sense.
They wanted all titles on the line, and it feels like they just kind of flung that U.S. title match in, because they were like, oh shit, we've been saying all titles will be on the line, but the U.S. title isn't on the line, and it just kind of got thrown in there. So I think they just want to make it a purely all championships on the line type of pay-per-view.
Yeah, but Roman Reigns is facing Rowan, and there's no title on the line there.
But that's because it's Roman Reigns.
I'm just saying,
you gotta have Roman Reigns on pay-per-views.
There has to be some consistency when it comes to the WWE.
I agree. I think they could have done away with that, because King of the Ring, it's not a championship, but it's a title. You get to be King of the Ring and stuff like that. So, I mean, why have a completely useless Roman Reigns match, but not have the King of the Ring decided at this pay-per-view? It's beyond me, and it is
I mean, it
typical
even could be on the
WWE fashion.
It could even be on the freaking pre-show. Like, you know that they're gonna have a title. They're gonna have the cruiserweight title on the pre-show, and then probably gonna have the women's tag title match on the pre-show. Like, you have technically, we talked about how they've been ending the pay-per-views a half hour-ish early, so they've been ending at 10:30. But technically, it can go to 11. So technically, they have time because there's going to be a squash match in there somewhere. And I'm not necessarily saying that the Roman versus Rowan match is going to be a squash, or that the King of the Ring would have to be a squash match. But, you know, they could have fit it in there. It made sense. Now, I didn't know that. Now that I know that, it makes the whole King of the Ring tournament irrelevant to me. It's supposed to end on a big crescendo. It's supposed to end at at a pay-per-view. But it's going to end at a Monday Night Raw. And if it was going to end at a Monday Night Raw, it should have ended at the Monday Night Raw at Madison Square Garden. That would have made sense. Last week.
I agree. Or just put it on the first SmackDown on Fox.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Figure put it on like have it end on that crescendo, like you say, have it end on that high point, and have it end on like that MSG show, 2 back-to-back nights sold out. Put it on the Raw or the SmackDown. But nope, they decided to completely move it.
Yeah, they definitely bungled it. They definitely messed that up.
So now moving on to our Clash of Champions predictions. So the Clash of Champions, the build-up's been 5 weeks in the making, and we now have every championship on the line, plus your run-of-the-mill Roman Reigns match. So let's start running through this. This one I can never really put my finger on because it's a Cruiserweight Championship. I do not watch 205 Live, and I
think they're going to do away with 205 Live.
I actually read that they're building it into NXT, is what they said.
Okay.
It's going to be a part of NXT, so it's like something that sets them apart.
If Triple H is controlling that, man, they might have a chance then.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, they have taken some of those 205 Live people and made them into something. I mean, you see Buddy Murphy there. You see, I believe,
Cedric Alexander, Ali.
Yeah, Cedric Alexander and Ali. Yeah, they've all been there, so they all get the push or an eventual opportunity. So it's something, I guess, worth watching, but it's just all people under 205. That's the issue with me. You mix it in with NXT, you bring a bit more relevancy to it. Maybe I'll watch it and care about it. So, Cruiserweight Championship, Drew Gulak, the defending champion, against Humberto Carrillo and Lince Dorado. Who do you got there?
Threat. I'm going to take Drew Gulak. Again, I'm with you. I don't really care for 205 Live that much. I mean, I'll watch it every once in a while, but it's not that high on my list, but I'll take Drew Gulak.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Drew Gulak too. He seems to be a very dominant cruiserweight champion right now. The only other thing would be Humberto Carrillo, I guess. Gulak was a former mentor for Carrillo, so maybe there's a potential to change hands, taking the title from his former mentor, but tough to say. But I'm going to stick with, when in doubt, choose a retaining title. Why not? Next up, the Women's Tag Team Championship match, another match that kind of just got flung together after a Fire and Desire beat Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross on SmackDown. It's Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross defending against Fire and Desire. Who do you got here?
I'm going to go with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, but I've always, in the back of my head, I've always thought that one of them is going to turn on each other. And if it were going to happen, it probably happens this weekend. But I feel like they're going to try to keep them together for a little bit and try to keep, because when Alexa Bliss has a title, it's relevant. So she's keeping the women tag belts relevant. If it goes over to Fire and Desire, and as much as I like Mandy Rose and think she's really, really, really cute and really good looking, I think it's like the Iconics have the belts again. Nobody's really going to care. But with Alexa having the belts, they're somewhat relevant. So I'm going to go with Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Alexa Bliss brings names to those titles, and I know that Vince McMahon loves Mandy Rhodes, as do many of us. But, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's like that. Bliss and Cross have fought on at least Raw or SmackDown every week since they became champions. They're in matches, they're involved in storylines. When Bliss comes out, she gets a reaction. People like her. So, I mean, I got to go with Bliss and Cross. I agree. Eventually, the turn has to happen. And maybe that turn could happen close to the roster change. And then they both go to the same roster and continue it from there. But for now, you got to keep some relevancy around the women's tag team division. And I just don't think Fire and Desire are high enough up in that division yet to bring that relevancy. And they're just so quiet. I don't find them very good on the mic. They don't bring a whole lot to the championships. At least the Iconics, even though they weren't that great in the ring, they pissed you off when they got on the mic. They got a rouse out of you when they were on the mic, but they just weren't, no one knew them well enough to bring relevancy to the titles. Bliss and Cross continue to bring that relevancy to the women's tag team championship. So I have them retaining as well.
Agreed.
Next up, SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The New Day is defending against Randy Orton's new friends, The Revival. Who do you have in this one? Because I know if I remember correctly, you were not a fan of The Revival when they were the Raw Tag Team Champions.
I'm not. So I'm going, and I love The New Day. Now, my only thing is, we haven't seen Xavier Rose since they did that move to his knee and or to his leg and whatever, and they claimed that he had like a broken leg or whatever. I don't think it was really broken obviously, but he's been out of action. So I don't know what type of shape Xavier Rhodes is going to be in. Also, the Revival are Raw superstars right now. They haven't done the draft to separate the shows. Now, maybe the Revival will end up on SmackDown. Who knows? But as of right now, they're not. So I'm going to go with the New Day because logistics say the New Day are going to win.
Yeah, I'm going with the New Day as well. I mean, I don't hate the Revival as much, and I actually kind of like them in the situation they're in with Randy Orton. I think it brings some sort of relevancy to them because they were like a joke for so many months, and when they were going through what they were going through with the Usos. But I am going to go with the New Day on this one. I think the Revival, there can still be some building to do, and they can definitely make the Raw or the SmackDown tag team division relevant once the clear roster split is done. But as of right now, it makes no sense for them to go off. Right now, the tag team divisions, I'll bring them both together in this statement, just make no sense. You got two singles competitors going at it in the Raw Tag Team Championship division. You have the New Day, SmackDown superstars taking on the Revival, Raw superstars for the SmackDown Tag Team division. Logistically, the tag team division is a complete mess right now, and that's something that definitely has to be worked on and improved as soon as the draft happens at the start of October. They really have to fix this tag team division. I love tag team wrestling, and I love the tag team division, but the relevancy is getting hurt some bad by what they're doing right now, putting singles competitors in, the Raw and Smackdown intermingling. If it's a SmackDown Tag Team Championship, you had plenty of options on SmackDown to pit against the New Day besides the Revival coming over from Raw.
I agree with you, and I know that they got the whole New Day and with Kofi Kingston against Randy Orton, like they have that storyline going, but like, let's be real, they could have done better.
Oh, absolutely. Next, let's keep it to the dysfunctional tag team division, the Raw Tag Team Championships. Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman defending against Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. I think I'll take this first. I'm going Ziggler and Roode. I think you gave Seth Rollins what he wants. He got his second belt, and just as quick as Becky 2 belts disappeared, Sethy 2 belts is disappearing because I want Ziggler and Roode. I think Ziggler and Roode actually they're good on the mics. I actually like them on the mics. I like them as a tag team division. I wish they didn't do it like this. I wish they could have come together in a different way instead of a tag team turmoil where it was 7 tag teams and 1 culmination of 2 singles competitors. I wish they could have done it a different way in that way, and they could have come together and built up to get an opportunity at the Raw Tag Team Championships against maybe the Viking Raiders down the road or an actual tag team that takes out Rollins and Strowman. But I don't want this Rollins and Strowman thing to continue as them having a universal title feud and be the tag team championships. I think they have to squash that as quickly as it started. So I want Ziggler and Roode to win this one.
So are they going to win because they get a 1, 2, 3 clean, or are they going to win because Braun or Seth turn on each other?
Well, based on what happened on Raw, I think that it's not going to be a turn, But something's going to happen again,
Miscommunication.
like where Rollins falls into him because Rude pushed him and then Rude got out of the ring. Something like that definitely could happen, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's Ziggler and Rude. There's no way they're winning this cleanly, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'd use a dirty tactic. It could just simply be using the ploy of mind games against Rollins and Strowman.
I wonder if they'll. Oh well, that won't change make the belts change hands. Because I was gonna say, would they do what happened in the AJ Styles Braun match where Braun was holding a chair after hitting the OC and and AJ laid on the ground acting like he got hit, and then the ref called, but that wouldn't change. That wouldn't.
No, yeah, we want the title belts out of their hands, so it's gonna be Ziggler and Rude, I think, and they're gonna use the mind games.
I want Braun and Seth to win because I don't like Ziggler and Rude, and I don't think that they'll be good for the titles. So I'm going to say Seth and Braun, even though I don't think it's going to happen. But I want to be different. I'm saying Seth and Braun.
Well, so far you have everybody retaining, so let's see if anything changes. The United States Championship, AJ Styles will defend against Cedric Alexander, who took a rivalry with Drew McIntyre, turned it into an appearance in King of the Ring, and now suddenly he is in the United States title picture. Who do you got winning this one?
I'm going to go off the beaten path here, and I'm going to say Cedric Alexander. I do think eventually AJ is going to go after the Universal title or could go back to SmackDown. Who knows? But I think that they'll give Cedric Alexander a run. And I think Cedric Alexander deserves one. He's really good in the ring. And I think this has a chance to be one of the better matches of the night. I
agree with that because, I mean, when Ricochet and Styles went at it, that was one of the better matches of the night at SummerSlam. So Cedric Alexander and Styles, I think, can put on definitely a similar show. I think I'm going to go with AJ Styles because the OC is not relevant if there isn't a title around somebody's waist. So I think AJ Styles retains, and coming out of Clash of Champions, the OC might go after Ziggler and Rude again, try and get those Raw Tag Team titles back because they've definitely hinted at the OC staying involved in that Raw Tag Team picture. And then as soon as they can get the tag titles back, AJ Styles can lose the U.S. title and enter into relevancy on either Raw or SmackDown, entering into the title picture on one of those shows, whether it be the WWE Championship or the Universal Championship, wherever they end up sending them. So I think AJ Styles retains the U.S. title for the relevancy of the OC.
Makes sense.
This one was another weird one that was just kind of thrown together recently, but I do love Sami Zayn as a mouthpiece for Shinsuke Nakamura. I think over the past couple weeks when he's sitting there and he's freaking out as he's beating the shit out of The Miz, I got a good chuckle out of that, especially when he says Shinkasa or whatever his finisher is and he falls on the ground. He's rolling all over the place. I've loved what they've done with Shinsuke with making Sami Zayn the mouthpiece. So the IC Championship, Shinsuke Nakamura defending against The Miz, presumably with Sami Zayn in Shinsuke's corner.
I think no. So Shinsuke is going to win only because they're going. You remember when they had the Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho best friend thing, and then they ended up splitting up?
Yep.
That's I think where they're leaning towards doing some type of storyline like that with Shinsuke and Sami. So Shinsuke is going to retain, and in a week or two down the line, Sami will turn on Shinsuke, and then he'll have a match at, let's say, possibly Hell in a Cell for that IC title.
I never thought of it that way, but that's an interesting way to do it. I just don't know. I guess Shinsuke would be the easiest one to turn face there because they've worked so hard to turn Sami heel that if you went and then turned him face again after all this, the WWE clearly doesn't know what they're doing with the characters.
We already know that they don't know what they're doing.
They already don't, but you've built this character with Zayn, and I actually like the character that they built with Sami Zayn, not this underdog of the underground or whatever he was before. I like where they've gone with this guy, the voice of the people, and being all sarcastic and just telling the fans that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you want. You just want happiness and all this. And so I kind of think that you'd have to turn Shinsuke face in that case, which isn't necessarily an impossible task.
He came up as a face, so.
Exactly. And I mean, he's not very good on the mic. You don't really know what he's saying. So you could kind of just not understand what's going on when Sami Zayn turns on him. And you feel for the guy, but I don't know how you want to do that. But I have Shinsuke retaining as well. I want The Miz to retain, but there's something that tells me Miz is about to go on a bit of a leave. There's something that tells me
I think Miz might be going over. I think Miz is on Raw right now, right? Miz,
I think he's been on Raw and Smackdown about 50-50 for the last 2 months.
I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I know we're going to discuss, in the next time we do a People's Take, who we think is going to go on each show. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes back to SmackDown.
Yeah, I would like to see him on SmackDown. I think he's better there. I love when he does his show, Miz TV. I really enjoy that. I think, but I don't know. There's just something that I feel like there was an article that came out a couple weeks back saying that thinking that Miz is performing injured right now. And there's a part of me that feels like as soon as the changeover happens and they have him rostered, that he's going to disappear for a little while, kind of like Finn Balor is now, wherever he is, although Finn Balor seems to disappear constantly.
He got married.
Oh, so that's a good reason to not be in the WWE for months at a time.
He's also I think I don't know if he had surgery or not, but he is hurt. But he also got married, so I give him a little slack for that.
And I think the Miz, like they just finished up with Miz and Mrs. They just finished up the most
awesome
recent
show.
Season. I had never actually watched an episode. Surprisingly.
He is hilarious in that, by the way. You should watch.
And just in case for any Canadians listening out there, he is married to someone who is 4 hours away from where I'm living right now. So very, very. That's Canadian right there. But yeah, I got Shinsuke there, but there's a part of me that feels like the Miz will be taking a month or two off here and getting some time off. He's been going nonstop for quite a while now with Miz and Mrs. and with everything on Raw and SmackDown and everywhere he's been. Surprised they haven't had him over on NXT, for God's sakes. But there's a part of me that feels like he'll be off on a break here soon. Now we have Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan. No disqualification match. I did not know it was a no disqualification match. But so I got Roman Reigns in this one. There's not really much to say about it. I like that they're pushing Eric Rowan and stuff, and they're trying to do something with Eric Rowan. I actually found this past week on SmackDown, he was actually pretty decent on the mic for the most part. But obviously, the big dog is going to continue to reign supreme, heading towards what I likely see as him going over to SmackDown and being a core piece of SmackDown.
I agree. He's going to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if Daniel Bryan does interfere. He's been attacked by Eric Rowan, but it wouldn't shock me if he comes out and helps Eric Rowan and be like, yeah, this is my ploy the entire time. But I still think that the big dog is going to win.
You could also say that Roman Reigns has yet to issue his apology, so he interferes and says you better apologize or you're never winning again. Or he could interfere in favor of Reigns and go after Rowan and create something there because
Reigns doesn't need help.
He definitely doesn't, but Rowan and Bryan, you could kind of push a rivalry there, but who really cares if those two are going at it? So
I agree.
Next, my God, what a card. SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley versus Charlotte Flair. Who do you got here?
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina, and when they usually have matches where the one of the superstars is from that town, they lose. I'm going with Bayley, mainly because I just don't want to see Charlotte win again. I really don't. So I'm taking Bayley to retain because I rather see, granted, I know people would rather see Ronda versus Charlotte, but I would like to see a Ronda versus Bayley program because I think Ronda's going to come back soon and be on SmackDown.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Charlotte Flair here. I think they're going to do something with Bayley and Sasha Banks. I just don't quite know what it is yet, but I just don't feel like Bayley and Sasha can both be champions. And, well, if that doesn't foreshadow who I'm choosing in the Sasha Banks match, I don't know what will. But, yeah, so I'm going to go Charlotte Flair here, and she's going to get that 10 time, and she's going to walk into SmackDown when it goes to Fox as a women's champion and bring a bit of relevancy to the SmackDown women's division because I just don't really enjoy Bayley as a champion. I don't feel she brings the attention to the championship that Charlotte Flair brought to it. So I'm going Charlotte Flair on that one. Raw Women's Championship, Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. I foreshadowed it a minute ago. I think Sasha Banks is taking the championship off of Becky. She's going from Becky 2 belts down to Becky no belts, but I do think that heated exchange between Becky and Sasha continues, and this won't be their one title match.
Definitely won't be their one title match. That's why I think Becky is going to retain this time, and possibly next time they face, Sasha will win and come away with the belt. But I'm going to take Becky this time. They might not even have a finish. It might not even be a clean finish. Becky could go after a chair and go after Sasha because of how she's been brutalized with the chair a number of times over the last couple of weeks. So I think that's what can happen, and I think Becky will retain the belt.
Alrighty, and now WWE Championship, the final 2 matches on what
this is a
card. Massive card. Yeah, that's why it's got to be a squash at some point, a squash or two. WWE Championship match, Kofi Kingston taking on Randy Orton as the rivalry continues from 10 years ago. Who do you have winning this one?
I'm going to go with Kofi winning. There'll actually be a finish in the match this time. Kofi will come away with the victory, and he'll hold on to the belt going into SmackDown on Fox, because I still think Brock Lesnar is going to appear on SmackDown on that first SmackDown and take the belt from Kofi, or at least challenge Kofi for the Hell in a Cell, which I think is that they're like that 2 days after the first show on the first SmackDown on Fox is Hell in a Cell, and then they could have a Hell in a Cell match for that belt, and then that's when Kofi will lose it. And then, after I want to see Big E go after the title. I really do. Even though I have them holding on to the tag titles, I would love to see Big E get a chance to go after the WWE Championship. But I'm going to stick with Kofi Kingston at this time.
It would literally be one of the craziest heel turns if and when it happens. It would be bigger than Bayley.
I don't think.
No.
I'm not saying break up the New Day. I think Big E goes after Brock Lesnar. He doesn't go after Kofi.
I'm still tempted to get that heel turn from Big E, because I think he could be a really good heel. But what you would do, like just the idea of breaking up the New Day, I think the WWE just can't even fathom the idea of doing that breakup at this point. I got Kofi Kingston retaining as well. I think he loses at Hell in a Cell to Randy Orton. This is not the end of this rivalry. This was 10 years in the making, and it's going to continue on for a couple months, I think. But I think it ultimately will come to an end near Hell in a Cell. Randy Orton gets it, and Kofi gets some time away from the WWE Championship. But we will see on that one as Hell in a Cell gets closer. Finally, the Universal Championship, the Tag Team Championships. Tag team champions, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman going at each other. Seth Rollins, the champion. Who do you got here?
I'm going with Seth Rollins. I think he's going to come away with the victory. My thing is, if this might not be a finish either. This could be like a double count out, but that only depends on how the finish of the Orton and Kofi match goes. Obviously, this match, Braun and Seth is going to be the main event, the match that ends the show. But I'm going to go with Rollins, and I'm also going to say that it's going to be a double count out, and they're not going to be any bad blood because they're still going to be tag champs. Yeah, and maybe Strowman might get another chance, on Raw the following night, might get a chance, but that could also be when The Fiend appears and stakes claim to, hey, I'm coming after this belt at Hell in a Cell. It's me and Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how they build The Fiend into this. I have Seth Rollins retaining as well over Braun Strowman in this match. But I definitely will be very interested to see how The Fiend is brought into this, especially if he's got to face a monster among men or somehow show Seth Rollins, I'm coming for that title by taking out Braun Strowman. I find it very interesting to see what they might do.
He could definitely appear that could be it. He could appear during the match and go after Rollins. That's how that match ends. The lights go out, or his music, whatever that is, plays, goes dark. He comes out. He gives the Sister Abigail or whatever is to his finisher is to Seth. Goes black. He disappears. The lights come back on. And Braun Strowman, everybody knows what happens. The match is over Braun Strowman's just standing there like, what the heck just happened? And Braun could call out the Fiend the next night. Now that would be interesting. And then set up something that way to where, you know, Seth comes out and be like, look, I'm getting this match against him because he did this to me, whatever. We didn't get the finish. Or it could be a triple threat match at Hell in a Cell. Who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very exciting to see what happens coming out of Clash of Champions. I think the WWE's done an incredible job of building up storylines. It's crazy how when you don't have a super showdown making all the shows suddenly become really close together and you have 5 weeks to build up a pay-per-view, how great that pay-per-view actually comes out. Maybe the WWE actually takes this into consideration going forward.
And it makes you think what's going to happen with Hell in a Cell, because that's only 3 weeks out.
You got to think that a lot of this stuff is going to boil over. Obviously, the Universal and WWE title pictures, I think, boil over into Hell in a Cell. But I get what you're saying.
And it also doesn't help that Friday preceding Hell in a Cell is the first SmackDown on Fox, and they are treating that show like it's a pay-per-view. Like, it's in Los Angeles. They want all the stars there. So it's going to be interesting. How are they going to plan like 2 big shows in a 3-day period?
They better do a good job of it, because the last time we saw this happen was the Super Showdown and then the pay-per-view right after, and the pay-per-view was not that good and the Super Showdown was really bad. Definitely. So hopefully they do right, because you don't want to fuck up with Fox right away like that. So that should be a really good pay-per-view and quite a crazy 4 weeks post Clash of Champions, with the move over to SmackDown, the draft, NXT going live on the USA Network, and Hell in a Cell. So we'll have plenty to talk about on our next show. Might even be able to try and squeeze 2 shows, because this show went a little longer than I thought, but there was a lot to talk about. This is what happens when we don't get to talk wrestling for like 8 weeks.
Definitely,
so,
yeah.
For myself, if you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Always Next Year podcast, at ANY Podcast on Twitter. You can follow me at Connor10, TEN on Twitter as well. And you can follow LJ Harrell at
LJ Harrell 54. 54.
And he is looking to get to 100 followers. So please feel free. He's trying to get the hang of this social media world and interact.
I got a hang of it. I just don't
media.
like. I have a hang of it. I just don't like interacting with people.
Well,
I'm learning that portion.
We want him to interact. So go add him and force him to interact with you on Twitter. And you can add all 3 Twitters there. And Clash of Champions tomorrow night should be a great pay-per-view. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks before Hell in a Cell and the draft.
And that's the bottom line, because Connor said so.
Revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with a win. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too. He beat me Sunday through and through. Danced a jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights. Well, lucky souls still have me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.